Who's this?
Theo.
Theo. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess, also known as the Fat Funny One. This is Theodore. He is just the cutest little dot, and this is my intro to him and also my birth story. So Theo is my fourth baby. For those, I'm swinging on the chair, sorry. Theo is my fourth baby, or Theodore is my fourth. So I've got Sophia, Isabella, Jason and Theo, and all of them have been cesarean sections. So I like to think I've become a bit of a pro now. Okay, not literally. Obviously, everything I talk about isn't medical advice or anything. It's just my own experience. But I've had 4 now. And Theodore was a planned cesarean section in the end. I felt that was the best option for us. And medically, it was advised, considering I'd had so many before, with my most recent only being 18 months before Theo arrived. So that's what they recommended. Pregnancy wise, I'll do a separate video. I do this in every video, so I'll do a separate video of something else because I don't want my videos to be like a million minutes long. But I had gestational diabetes, so it was a bit of a long slog because I was diagnosed with it quite early on. I did have it with my last pregnancy with Jason too, but it wasn't until a little bit later in my pregnancy, so it felt like it didn't last as long, whereas this time around it was pretty much from the start, and it made my pregnancy long. But he's here. So a few things with a planned cesarean, it normally happens at 39 weeks, but ours was a little bit earlier, and I thank God for that, because when I had my cesarean section, everything went fine. I never know where to start with these videos. Okay, let me go from the morning. Let's go from the morning. The morning of the day, my mum came round the night before and stayed with the children. So we live around the corner from the hospital. So we went over to the hospital about 7:30 in the morning, and I had to fast, which meant I couldn't eat anything, with sips of water just to take medication from 10 PM the night before. That was all fine. So I was supposed to go in about 8 AM. But when I got to the hospital, I was all ready to go. It took a little while, so I think it was about 9 o'clock-ish I finally was ready to actually go in. But just before I went in, they realised that the blood test that I'd had a couple of days before had come back void, which meant that either my blood had clotted too quickly before they got to the lab, or there was an issue with them, or there wasn't enough blood in their little vial, whatever it could have been. They did explain there could have been a multiple number of reasons, so I had to redo my blood test. But without my bloods, I couldn't go into theatre straight away, which I was so confused about, because if it was an unplanned section or emergency, you just get whisked in like I have had before. But that wasn't an option for me, so I had to wait, which meant that someone who was also planned for their cesarean that day had to go before me. Now, the only reason why I was booked in first, it wasn't because I was being keen, it was because of my gestational diabetes, and basically obviously not eating for a long period of time mean that my sugar levels would go too low, which inevitably is what happened. So the other lady went in, and I had to wait until the lab sent my bloods back, which was fine. By the time it was actually getting close to when I probably should be going into theatre, I started to feel so ill. I felt so sick. I was physically shaking. I felt weak. I had a really bad headache. And obviously I couldn't eat, drink or anything. Sips of water. And when I mean sips, it really was just sips of water. So I spoke to the nurses. They were quite short-staffed, so it was really hard to get hold of anybody. But finally someone came over, and then I got the doctor, and the doctor was like, we need to get you on a sugar drip. You can't ingest anything because we want your stomach to be empty, but we're going to have to get some sugar in you. So I got put on a drip, which I had to be on for a little while before we went into surgery. So it took longer and longer and longer, and I started to get really stressed and anxious and worried, mainly because I was physically feeling really unwell, and the headaches were just awful. So my anxiety just was shot up, which it's already at, you know, peak when I'm having a baby, because I suffer with something called tocophobia, which is an irrational fear of childbirth, which I was diagnosed within my first pregnancy. Now I know some people are like, but you've had like a million kids since then. I know, I've spent a lot of money and a lot of time in therapy trying to work on it, and I've got it to a manageable level where I can, you know, somewhat enjoy my pregnancies, which was just a no-go the first time I was pregnant. Once all of that was done, the other lady was kind of done and she was fine, didn't need to go back in. I was finally ready to go, and the team in theatre were just incredible, so nice. I predicted that Theo would weigh at least 8 pounds, but he didn't. He came up exactly 7 pounds. He was a tiny little thing. And the whole process of being in theatre was really calming. Everyone was really lovely. Trevor was allowed to be with me by my side. All in all, it doesn't normally take that long. I believe a planned cesarean is under an hour. But I was in there for quite a while, and it wasn't until after the consultant came to speak to me. And really, really lovely. During the theatre process, during the surgery process, she didn't mention anything, and kind of we just all carried on talking and stuff, and I didn't actually notice at the time that it was taking longer than planned and that there were some complications. And she really took my mental health into consideration. She didn't want to panic me, so kindly waited until after. Obviously, if there was something really pressing she needed to tell me straight away, she would have, but she didn't. So after I'd kind of gone through recovery and I was feeling okay, she came in to talk to me and basically said that my uterus was really thin. Should I have gone into a natural labour and had contractions, it would have probably ruptured completely, which is a horrendous circumstance and a horrendous thing to happen. So I was so glad that the consultant that I had towards the end of my pregnancy, because it changed, really pushed for me to go a little bit earlier. She pushed for me to go at 38 weeks because of the diabetes, but it obviously so happened that that was such a brilliant time, because any closer the risk of going into natural labour is higher, and that would have then obviously caused a rupture. I was so grateful that that happened and the timing happened, and God's plan was just perfection. I was home after 24 hours. So I came home to the madhouse of my mum and the kids, but luckily my mum was here for a week and got to stay with us, and I really, really needed that support. So Theo will be 6 weeks. 6 weeks this week, which has just feels so weird because it feels like it's gone really quickly, but it also feels like he's been part of our lives forever. But recovery this time around hasn't been the easiest, and that's definitely down to me. I think I've done too much too soon. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself. I felt really guilty about not being able to support the other children more. I think when you've just got one or maybe even two, you're only splitting yourself twice, whereas trying to split myself 4 times just felt impossible, and I felt a lot of pressure to make sure I was there for all of them. And because of that, I did too much too soon and ended up splitting the right hand side of my scar, which wasn't pleasant at all. It then ended up getting infected, and my recovery has probably been the most difficult this time round. My recovery the last time was probably the easiest, and it's because I rested. I listened to my body. I did nothing. However, last year it was lockdown, so we had nowhere to go, no school runs, no visitors, we weren't allowed to go anywhere. So I was almost forced to just like keep still and go nowhere and do nothing. Whereas this time around we had school runs to do, the kids were back up and running, they had things to go and do, life was somewhat normal, and so I found it really hard to adjust to that and really force my body to rest. So if I give anybody any advice, rest. Please rest. Please put things in place to make sure you get the most amount of rest possible after. So the recovery has been a little bit tough. I've got my 6-week check next week to kind of make sure everything's healed up all right. The infection has gone. I got given some extra antibiotics and stuff, and as far as I know, that should all be okay. It's been a whirlwind, 4 C-sections. I'm done now. I keep getting asked if I'm having any more. Absolutely not. We were done anyway, but the conversation with the doctor around the physical impact that another C-section or pregnancy would have on my body has definitely affirmed that it's no, that's it, we're done now, and we're quite happy with that. I think someone's going to fuss in a minute and want for you. Yep, so good timing. Oh no! I'm gonna go and feed the small human. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe. If you've got any questions, particularly around cesarean sections, if I can help, I absolutely will. Please do like and subscribe for more of this, and I'm going to do more videos around pregnancy, gestational diabetes, being plus size and pregnant, and all of that jazz. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!